I haven't yet waded into the murky water of the Black Lives Matter movement. There's more to unpack here than can be discussed in one video, but let's jump in and see if I can't make conservatives and progressives as pissed off at me as I am of them. Welcome to The Angry Moderate. To step back for a moment, one thing that both conservatives and progressives agree on is that the law lags behind progress. Legislation is important, but social change comes first. Jackie Robinson desegregated baseball in 1947, but schools didn't desegregate until 1954, and the Civil Rights Act didn't exist until 1964. The difference is that conservatives draw the lesson that social change should not begin with the law, as it attempts to force progress for which society is not yet ready. Progressives believe in pushing causes that may seem hopeless now in the belief that it will hasten the law to catch up. But these ideas are not really in conflict. If you want to know where change is going to come from, look at what those on the left call social movements and those on the right call voluntary associations. Such groups face a lot of decisions as they evolve, such as Black Lives Matter. For them, the biggest decision in 2020 is about whether it wants to become a focused movement with a clear structure, leaders, and political goals, or a loose network united around a slogan that has a lot of popular support but no clear meaning. Most organizations build a structure, then donations follow. Black Lives Matter is more an idea than an organization, and it has lots of cash, but organized very loosely. After the death of George Floyd, donations to Black Lives Matter poured in from all over the world. About $10 billion has been given to Black Lives Matter related causes since then. Black Lives Matter activists disagree about who should be in charge of the money and what its purpose should be. This is partly a good old-fashioned internal power struggle. But the biggest dilemma is whether to go narrow or broad. A few of those who claim to speak for Black Lives Matter in America think that racial justice will be achieved only when capitalism is abolished. Others think they should stick to reforming local police departments. A second dilemma is whether to set out an extreme position or present demands that are more moderate. Several of America's most successful movements take a no-compromise approach. Think of the National Rifle Association or the pro-life, pro-choice activists who think that all abortion is murder or that there should be no restriction on a woman's right to choose. Setting out an extreme position is rational if your aim is to move the center of gravity in your direction. A third problem is whether to present demands in universal terms or make them specific to a particular group. Black Lives Matter grew out of a frustration at the failure of American society to realize that the situation of so many African Americans remained especially bad and therefore required a remedy targeted for them and not at everybody else. In other words, rejecting the universal approach. And the quickest way to show that you didn't get that was to say, all lives matter. As an aside, if you consider yourself a moderate, stop saying all lives matter. Why? Because it falsely suggests that the slogan means only Black Lives Matter, and that isn't what this movement is about. It would have been clearer had the name been Black Lives Matter Too. As a middle-class white man, I can be honest and say I don't fully understand the black struggle in America in historical terms or today in 2020. I'm smart enough to know that there is a context and history there that I and those that thoughtlessly criticize the movement know nothing about. And until we get a better understanding, spend more time listening and learning about other views and less time virtue signaling. A quick analogy. If your significant other said, "I'm feeling insecure about our relationship. More than anything, I need to hear that you love me." If your response is, "I love everyone," even if it's true, it's a hurtful response that's wrong in the moment. Think about that. Okay, back to the topic at hand. Past civil rights movements have been successful when they have presented themselves in universal terms, often as a demand for the consistent application of laws that already exist. Martin Luther King did not present his argument in terms of special treatment for a particular group, but in terms of making good on promises the Constitution makes to all Americans. The problem is that this movement is identified with a racial minority and cannot use the same tactics as something like the NRA, which is associated with the country's white majority. One of Barack Obama's mantras is that politics is a game of addition. The easiest way to lose it is by putting so many people off that your movement becomes smaller. The failure of the Black Panther Party, founded to promote armed self-defense for African Americans, dissolved in 1982, which aptly demonstrates the point. What then should Black Lives Matter be all about? The movement will work that out for itself and does not need any advice from me. But my hope is that it focuses on police violence against all Americans. The killing of unarmed Americans by police is indeed a scandal, but so are the low clearance rates for murder cases in American cities, and so is the widespread availability of illegal firearms used to commit those murders. All of these failures disproportionately affect African Americans. But a movement demanding that St. Louis be policed just as the same way as towns in rural Missouri, where chokeholds, tasers, and unsolved murders are rare, is more likely to succeed than one that sounds like it's requesting special treatment for a particular group. To sum up my thoughts on Black Lives Matter, it's a movement whose best chance of success is to sharpen their focus but make demands in universal terms. If they can do that, and if they succeed, then we'll all be not only safer but happier. Right now, though, the Black Lives Matter movement seems to have a long way to go before those questions are answered. And my level of support for this movement depends on the answers to those questions. Next time, I'll be tackling world peace. No problem. If you like political talk that isn't a bunch of name-calling and ridiculous arguments, click subscribe now. We need more moderates like you. Thanks for watching.